Be careful with the dangers of frequency healing. Starseeds, join the free community for the human awakening in my profile.
By anyone more appropriate than Gail Lynn. Having worked for more than a decade with another Lightbox technology while observing what works, her new technology represents everything she's learned through the years. There is a word for the wise, however. We should not be using these technologies, the vibrational and energy healing systems, indiscriminately, and we will explain that in the second half of the conversation. Welcome, Gail.
Hi, thanks for
This
having
is
me.
fun. I mean, I have to say I'm personally excited about this because as it turns out, years ago when I interviewed the person you were the protege of with the other Lightbox technology, a woman in my little hometown watched that interview and got this message pouring through her, I need to do this one day. I'm going to open a center. Our town has 2,000 people in it. Anyway, the day has arrived. She has one of those because she opened her center a little while ago, and now she has the harmonic egg too. So I feel so lucky that I can go in and bathe in these frequencies whenever I want. It's 5 minutes from my house. Well, 7 technically, yeah. So this is great. Anyway, how many are there right now out and about? I mean, because this is still pretty new. You're
11 centers now.
11. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So people, if they're interested after hearing this, they can probably find one in the general region.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all
not
in the
their
U.S.
hometown. They're not. I am lucky. So first of all, I wanted to have you introduce yourself to this audience by speaking of how you originally became what is now compulsively obsessed with light and sound healing technologies.
Absolutely. So I'm an engineer from Detroit. And so I grew up in the automotive industry, blue collar family, kind of the good old boys network. And so I worked in automotive in the 80s. And so it was 20% women and mostly men. And I just knew it wasn't life changing. It wasn't going to change the world. And I had an itch to get out. And I met a gentleman in Texas and moved to Texas in 1997-ish. And it was life changing because he was a shaman. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time coming from Detroit. So I moved out to Texas, got into the telecom industry, and grew an international telecom consulting firm. Married, divorced. We were better business partners than we were life partners.
Right.
And then got into Hollywood. So it's taken me all these different courses to get to where I am today. So I get out into Hollywood where I met a gentleman who happened to be Elvis Presley's stepbrother. And he and I made a movie together in Hollywood called Protecting the King. And so I learned stuff in automotive, I learned stuff in telecom, and I learned stuff in Hollywood, but all that took me into a very high stress place. And at age 37, the doctor said, you're on the verge of an instant heart attack. You have the heart of an 80-year-old. And I said, well, I guess I got to make some life changes because I want to be around. I want to live. And so met a gentleman that owned a Lightbox technology in Arizona, flew out to Arizona, and in a weekend, the severe cardiovascular stress was gone.
What do you mean it was gone? You mean you didn't feel it, or it was
I could feel-
verifiably
it was
also?
verifiable with heart rate variability that I was in
Yeah.
severe cardiovascular stress.
And
on
you
the
were
verge.
tested after all this?
I was tested after on heart
was
rate
gone?
variability. It was completely normal. So the nervous system has two sides, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic.
And you were like stuck with the
I was
metal, the
stuck.
pedal to the metal and sympathetic.
Yeah, fight or flight, probably almost close to freeze.
So now this has to be implicated in a lot of heart disease. Is severe stress like that?
Absolutely.
Where people can't nudge themselves out of the sympathetic side of the autonomic system, nervous system.
Right. It's really hard,
Yeah.
especially when people feel like they were born in fight or flight.
Right.
So I remember the first time I realized that I had a parasympathetic nervous system. I was speeding down 36 over here in Boulder. I saw a cop, and I felt this warm sensation come up all the way into my neck. And I thought, what is that? And then I didn't get pulled over, thank God, and it went back down. And it was probably after about 20 sessions in the light and sound chamber, and I realized, wow, I have a parasympathetic nervous system, and I just went into fight or flight.
Interesting.
And I had always just lived there.
Yeah, I know, I understand. I have a healing practitioner I go to who's just a very does a sophisticated level of kinesiology combined with chiropractic. When I get stuck in sympathetic, it will not go back.
Right.
I can't get it bounced back out unless I do something, like light or sound therapy, which most of the time I'm not thinking to do.
Yeah.
Because there isn't anything around really to do.
Well, and the other thing is deep breathing. If we do that deep breathing, it
absolutely.
always will help to reset the autonomic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, and the
most
rest
of
and
us are
digest.
breathing very shallowly.
Especially
most
women.
of the time.
Yeah.
So, how did you even find out about this? It's pretty esoteric.
Right. Okay. So I was at a conference in LA, and it was for C-level executives only. So I was a chief operations officer for the production company in Hollywood, and so got invited to the event. And I remember seeing the gentleman on stage, and he was talking about all of these cases that were, to me, amazing. And how could Sound and Light do that? And as an engineer, I thought, there's no way. My brain couldn't figure out how that could possibly work. You lie inside of a sound and light chamber and
Things
all this stuff
happen,
happens?
right?
Now, knowing what I know now, it's pretty common sense.
Yes.
So I bullied my way up to the front of the stage after his talk, and I said, oh my gosh, I've had 23 years of migraine headaches. Can this help? And he said, the body doesn't know disease by name. And I thought, yes or no, dude? What is the answer, right?
Right.
Now, knowing what I know, you can't make claims. You can't say yes or no. Or you don't
Right.
want to say no, but when it's a yes, but you can't make claims because of the FDA.
The FDA, absolutely.
So I thought, what a stupid answer.
Right.
So I left there kind of disappointed, and it was probably 6 years later that I actually went to Arizona.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was still in my head. And every time it kept popping up, go to the light box, go to the light box. And I thought, that's crazy, I can't do anything. And then I finally went,
And
and it was amazing.
you said after a weekend?
After a weekend, I was out of the severe cardiovascular stress, verifiable with heart rate variability. I didn't notice anything else, and I actually came home and told my friends it didn't do anything because it just didn't make sense to me. And so I wrote up a funny little explanation to all my friends, which I have on my website, of how I described this crazy light box. And then I realized 2 months later, I didn't have asthma anymore, and I was born with asthma.
Okay.
So I'm riding my bike up a hill, I get it to the top of the hill, and I said, where's my asthma? And I thought, it couldn't be that silly light box, because that didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then I went to the eye doctor, and I was wearing my glasses, and I thought, I need a higher prescription because I've been wearing glasses since I was 19. I went to the doctor, and he said, why are you wearing glasses? I said, because I've been wearing them since I was 19. He said, your vision's 20/20. Well, I thought the blurriness meant I needed a stronger prescription, which I really didn't need them. And then he had the audacity to tell me, well, as we get older, our eyesight gets worse. And I said, have you been in the same room with me? Because my eyesight's better. And so I left there just kind of chuckling and threw the glasses away. And I
Okay.
thought, couldn't be that silly light box.
No. By this time, how many sessions had you done?
I had only done 4 sessions in 3 days.
That was
it.
All these things happened after
Yes.
that. Okay, then I heard you say a little bit ago, then you ended up doing like 20 sessions. So,
Yes.
okay, so obviously you escalated your engagement with the
Right.
technology. What happened?
So it was about a year later, and I, little knocking on my head, was saying, go to the light box again, go to the light box again. And I just felt stuck, and every time I felt stuck thereafter, I would go to the light box and feel like that everything was moving again, things were flowing again. So a year later, I went back and I did another weekend of sessions, and then another year later, I went back and I said, well, crap, I really need to just do this. My migraines had gotten less intense, they were less often, and then they were almost nothing. They were 15-hour migraines, throwing up, both ends, coming out both ends, couldn't talk. I would look at a word and couldn't even make it out. I would look at the and it wouldn't look like the. I couldn't text, I couldn't talk, and it was horrible. So it was such a godsend that these migraines were gone, and the last part of the migraines after the 20th session was just optical. So I would lose my vision, but wouldn't get any pain. It was amazing.
Are they gone now?
I haven't had one for probably 8 years. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, the story continues.